Hello and welcome back to another RiftGuides WildRift video. Today we're going to talk about secret OP picks that, well, have been up and coming in the current meta and are very powerful, and people still don't really play them for I don't know what reason. But before we hop into it, let's talk about our question of the day. What do you want to see buffed next patch? Let me know in the comments below. For our first champion we have Irelia. Irelia has recently received an interesting change. In exchange for her base AD, her passive deals more damage if it's fully stacked. With that in mind, being a good Irelia is paying off more than it did in the past. Being a bad Irelia, however, is going to be far more punishing. With the item changes nonetheless, and Amaranth Twin God being in the game, things are kinda different nowadays. You have access to a lot of nice and interesting items. For example, Divine Sundra, Blitter the Rune King, and then you can already think about going for Amaranth Twin God. If that is not to your liking, you can increase your DPS with Wit's End, and to make sure that you deal enough damage to deal with tanks, you can even go for Kraken Slayer as a rune. You're not forced to go Conqueror, it's not really mandatory. On the other hand, you can also think about going Lethal Tempo if you think that the on-hit damage and the attack speed bonus is going to outvalue Kraken Slayer. But Conqueror as a whole, with all the sustain you will already have, will not be what you want to have, given the amount of resistances that the enemy champions are going to have. Kraken Slayer as well can be a very nice, let's say, cheesy way of getting more kills during the laning phase. If you combine Kraken Slayer with Brutal during the laning phase, you will have so much damage that people will get caught off guard so many times. And if you happen to snowball on Irelia, things look very dire for the opposing side very early on, because your champion is a Brutal Stomper. If you think that your champion needs more tankiness and doesn't want to teamfight and you want to side lane, you can also itemize into the typical new 4.1 itemization, which is Divine Sundra, Hullbreaker, and then Amaranth Twin God. Those items are really broken on any bruiser, and any bruiser that builds those becomes a menace you have really big trouble dealing with. The next champion that has previously had some major issues during the jungle clear and generally just finding more footing in the meta was Lillia. But now, since the meta has swept or changed towards a more tanky oriented meta, Lillia can really shine in what she's doing well, melting bruiser targets or melting tanky targets. With the benefit of her movement speed and just dancing around graciously during teamfights, she applies so much DPS that it becomes very daunting for the enemy to even approach her. And if you don't have any hard CC, you will not lock her down and she'll just run around you while slowly killing you. Well, not slowly, but, well, rather fast. With the items we have in the game currently, and Liandry's Torment being such a staple item for her, if you combine those items and then add Amaranth Twin God yourself, you become quite a drain tank and are very tanky yourself. With how it works and with how much AP you will get and how your passive works, Liandry's Torment will super brutally synergize with how your champion works. So if you can play fights rather slow and just apply your passive with your ability like every once in a while, you will decide the fight with a single button input. Even if you think about just using your first ability into pressing your ult and using stasis at the same time, so you wait until they fall asleep, until you go out of stasis again so they don't have any counterplay, you will get to a point where you alone can deal so much damage that the fight is going to be decided before anything can happen. And as the game goes on, even hitting anyone with your third ability will take away like 25%, if not 30% of their maximum HP. This champion is absurd if played well, and really broken outside of its early game weaknesses due to the jungle changes and the just overall changes to the champion. The only issue you probably will run into is mana issues, since you don't really want to incorporate a mana item because it scales too slow for your liking. It's kinda weird for her. The next champion who's a big winner of this patch is Morgana. Morgana has always been an absolute agony to deal with. This champion is so non-interactive that just seeing her makes me feel really bad. In any competitive play, Morgana has been such a solid staple, which is a flexible pick for the jungle role and for the dragon lane. and it's very difficult to get a hold on her. She is frequently banned or just picked along Nautilus, and then things look really bad because you won't be able to move. And if you're unable to move, you'll be locked up in her puddle, which grants her even more puddles, and you basically know how the story goes. You will die. If it's slower or fast, it doesn't matter, but you will die. And catching her is kind of troublesome. So unless you're like a Fiora or super like high mobile champion, getting to a Morgana is kind of a problem. Also, she is able to perfectly stall the game for long periods of time because you can just place down her puddle into a minion wave, and since later into the game only waves with cannons are going to spawn, you'll always have the cooldown reset on the cannon minion that is going to be tagged by the puddle, and any champion that gets tagged once she has like a few items, starting with probably 3 items, will get their HP bar rotten or like stolen away from you. It looks so crazy because it's literally like you are rotting away. You stand in the puddle like for 1 second, then you walk away and there's still 3 seconds of Liandry's burn onto you, and with high AP numbers, it's similar to Lillia, your HP is just going to evaporate. It's really annoying, really broken, and a really brutally underrated champion because this champion is, well, to be honest, kind of boring to play, but very powerful. Another champion who is absolutely busted is Shen. Shen has also been a brutal staple in competitive play and is so unbelievably broken that people first pick him all the time. The issue with Shen is that he has global presence and is a decently fast farmer in the jungle role, and for Baron lane he's also a decent pick for weak side scenario. So you always have the possibility of putting a champion into multiple lanes, which instantly increases the champion's power during like any draft scenario. If you add to the fact that this champion has a global presence, you realize how broken this champion can become. Similar to like champions such as Galio, which are really annoying, but Galio is more of a combo pick and something you want to pick later down the line. But why is Shen exactly now such a problem? Shen features multiple things that you want from a champion. Like, he has global presence, he has a higher health pool because he goes into bruiser and tank items, while also simultaneously dealing percentage max damage with his first ability, while also providing crowd control and a safe haven for any alt attack with his little umbrella. So if you think about all those things, Shen is truly kind of a broken champion, and if the numbers on his spells are too high, he will just take over the meta and always be a solid choice for whatever you want to do. Last for this list, we are going to have Sion. Sion is also a big winner of this patch given the items we just got. If you think about the items we have now, you'll quickly realize that a champion that gains health from killing minions and theoretically infinitely scales has a big advantage from the fact that he just gains free resistances on top, because as a consequence those resistances will make the health even more effective, because that's something you need to understand. Health isn't equal effective health. If you have 2000 HP and you have 100 armor and 100 magic resist, you effectively mitigate 50% damage of magical nature and physical nature. So those 2000 AP will not be 2000 AP. You will be able to tank even more than those 2000 HP because the damage you'll be receiving will be, if you just rule out the resistances, will be far more than 2000. So this is something that many people to this day don't really look at in a proper way. Resistances scale with your health and health scales with your resistances. In early game, health is very potent because you just gain so many base resistances on top, outside of magic resist of course, because well, nerfing mages would be too much of a problem, right? And as the game goes on, you don't want only health, because health is easily dealt with as you gain higher and higher numbers of damage. You also want the resistances to make it more effective. So whenever you build someone or any champion, you want to make sure that you basically go into multiple things at the same time. And this is the reason why so many builds right now, even for AD carries, feature a health item and then Amaranth Twin Guard, because with just those two items combined, you'll make your life so much better. And if you think about this, if you are allowed to fight for a longer period of time without dying, you will automatically be able to deal more damage. At the same time, you're also allowed to position way more aggressively because you're way tankier than you should be usually. And that makes gaming or playing or carrying substantially easier. But that only is the fact if you have enough damage to back it up, which means only a certain set of carries can really and absolutely graciously utilize those item combinations. And that's it for today's video. Thank you all for watching, and if you like Sion, and we all love Sion, leave a like and subscribe to the video and the channel, and come back tomorrow for more. Bye.